like when we learn finance. This is what questions and answers are they going to want us to have for the real estate test. So always remember, where are you going?
I'm gonna go to the office so I can sign up.
Oh, get registered for the graduation.
I have to read too, okay?
Yeah.
I didn't do that.
Yeah, there's a separate form. Willie had, he just got one the other day. I should get a handful of them. I'll have John get a handful of them. But we got quite a few people, and then they'll loan you the cap and gown, you know.
Okay.
And John and I'll be there.
Office will know about it? The administration
Yeah,
office?
the girls will know where you go to get the form.
Okay. And your next classes, you're teaching?
I'll be doing advanced finance, investments, and appraisal here, and at the conference I'll be doing principles and practices.
Yeah, no, I'm going to take it here, so, okay.
But then, if the girls are going to get those forms for, to sign up for AA, get a stack of them. We just put them in the office.
Okay.
All right, thanks, So anyway, now the way this is, like, if you're in a finance class, and I'm talking about conventional loans, VA loans, FHA loans, and we get into the bowels of those, like how to make them, what to do, what you need to do with the clients. In this class, what we do is we start learning they exist and the kind of the nuances of them, what we have to do to learn to function, you know, within those loans. And then there'll be quite a few questions that they're going to ask you on the state test. Unfortunately, I know them. And so whenever they're there, I'll bring those out. Just try to remember them. They'll be on your practice tests, but try to remember them a little bit, okay? Real estate financing in California requires the use of a promissory note together with a trust deed or mortgage. Now, we don't use mortgages in California hardly ever. They do just sometimes 2 or 3 a year, but mostly trust deeds. But we always say mortgage. So if you go get a new loan on your house and it's a new trust deed, you're going to say, my mortgage. I just paid my mortgage off, and you really paid off your trust deed. So then we have property sales contracts too. Property sales contracts at different times are used a lot. They're used with VA financing for CalVet, California veterans. Okay, but they're not real popular right now. At different times, you know, they are real popular. Promissory note, an instrument used to evidence the basic obligation or debt, the promise to pay back the money. So like they have promissory notes, you just said a demand note. And like say we have an office going and somebody wants to borrow money from one of the other brokers, and they'll borrow $5,000 or $10,000 to put into a building, and then they'll say, you know, due on demand. It doesn't have a due date on it. We put the date, we write it, and it's due on demand. So whenever the guy wants it. Commercial banks work that way a lot. They call them 30, 60, and 90-day, even 180-day loans, you know, when you're working with credit lines, but they're demand notes. And then they'll say if they need the money, if the Fed tells them they need to have a larger reserve, then they'll call those demand notes in. But they don't really want to collect them. They like them out there, like if Starlin has a $500,000 demand note, they just keep renewing it. So say it's a 30-day note, they keep renewing it every 30 days. And the reason is because he's paying interest on it, and that's exactly what they want the money to do. They don't want to have to rewrite it for somebody else. That's when you're getting into stuff like that, and that's stuff you want to learn to know, because if you start working in a real estate office, then you learn to work with a bank, and you've got to have good relationships, you know, with people that make loans on real property. That's okay, but you also have to have a good commercial bank relationship, because that's where you can go and borrow $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, cover payroll, stuff like that. You want to buy a building, you can go borrow $500,000, you know, to buy a building, but you have to keep exercising that credit line. If you stop using it, it'll go away. So if you get so you can go to the bank and borrow $500,000 on your signature, and then you don't use it for a year, and you go to borrow $500,000, no, it's not going to be there. You've got to re-qualify. Okay, so you want to keep those once you get, because those are, when you're working, you know, and you're buying things and selling things, those lines of credit that you need to accomplish that have to be fluid. So a promissory note then is just an obligation. Well, where have you been? God, we've got the troops out searching for you and everything else. We've got everything except that yellow alert. What's that called? Amber alert.
They wouldn't let her put that on her because she's of age. Silver 18, they won't put it on there.
I have a picture of her up there, on Art signed down on Western. So instrument used evidence of basic obligation of the debt and promise to pay back the money. There are different types of notes. Okay, now let's start paying attention to this. Straight note. Straight note is interest only. The interest only note is a straight note. It goes both ways. They like that question on your state test. What is a straight note? The interest only note. There's a plus interest note, but there's not really any questions on that. Then including interest, and that's a common note. Adjustable rate, that's common. And a demand note, I already told you a demand note is just a note you write for, and there's an interest rate. You don't even have payments on demand notes sometimes. Straight note calls for the payment of interest only during the term of the note. The principal sum is due at the end of the term. An example could be a $150,000 trust deed at 7% interest only and payable in equal monthly installments of $875, all due and payable in 10 years. So the balance stays the same, you're just paying the interest, okay? The $875 monthly payment will only pay the interest on the note, not any of the principal. The $150,000 principal would be due at the end of the 10 years. And depending on what you're doing, that's a good loan, not wrong. Plus interest note. This is a kind of a hybrid where they set out the principal part. So we have interest payments on a note and we have principal payments on a note. And here they set out the principal part of it, and they say that's static. Every month your principal is like this one, I think is $300. Every month you pay $300, and then they calculate the interest. You don't run into these. They were hybrids, mainly East Coast stuff. So installment note calling for periodic payments on the principal sum plus accrued interest. And that's kind of hard to read, but what it is, an example could be a $150,000 note at 7% interest with principal payments at $300 a month. Now the principal payment, every month you pay a principal $300. And so then the first month, at the end of the balance equals $149.7. The second month would be $149.7 times 7% divided by 12 would be $873. So the interest goes down. See the interest going down? So now the interest goes down, but the principal is the same. So you add this to that, so your whole payment then goes down every month. So this is called a plus interest note. So here, this payment would go down $2. All right, and the third month would be $849, so it comes up to $879. You add $300 to that, it'd be $1171. So here it'd be $1175, and here $1173, and here $1171. They're workable notes. People do use these, and they have payment of $300. We just don't run into them much here. We're more kind of sophisticated with our notes and the way we put them together, and static too. Installment note, including interest. Installment note calling for payments of fixed amount over the life loan. This is what you're used to with car payments. This is what you're used to with real estate payments. So that the payment stays the same every month. Okay? It stays the same every month. You guys are comfortable with that. There's no reason to only use this kind of loan. It's just you're comfortable with it. Sometimes the adjustable rate mortgage is an absolute gift. Installment note calling for payments of a fixed amount over the life of the loan. The fixed amount includes both interest and principal. So principal and interest, like when we write loans and we go PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And that's your house payment, what it normally is. An example of this could be a $150,000 loan at 7% interest, amortized for 30 years, with equal monthly installments of $997.95. This monthly payment would fully pay the loan off in 30 years. Now, usually when I teach finance, and I'm trying to move away from finance right now, not because I don't do a good job with it, it's because I'm expanding this program. And I need more instructors. I always teach you guys to use the qualifier calculator, financial calculator, which is a good calculator. I mean, there are several good ones, and I don't care which one you use. But I'll talk to Peterson and have him. I'm not sure what he uses. I know he uses a financial calculator. I don't know how proficient he is with it. But I want you guys to start learning that, because you can actually create dollars for those things if you learn to use them properly. You know, and don't use them in front of people. It confuses people. You know, so you just kind of look up in the air and feel like you know. It works. Adjustable rate note. In the adjustable rate mortgage, the interest rate moves up or down at predetermined intervals. The payment moves up or down at predetermined intervals in restricted increases or decreases. It's restricted in California. So some of these ARMs that, I ran into a couple of them in '08 that people had taken out like an adjustable rate mortgage of 1% for the first year, then it was going to go to market at the end of the year. And so, you know, they had like on a house, like say a $500,000 loan, you know, and a 1% interest, that's $5,000. So their payment was like $500 a month. But at the end of the year, it would rack out at the regular interest rate, would change it from $500 a month to about $2,500 a month. And so then I asked them, I said, well, when the mortgage loan broker made this loan, what did they tell you? They said, well, we would just refinance it at the end of the year. So these were guys that, you know, they told them what to say and they said it, didn't know anything about it. Some of them went to jail. You know, it was irresponsible if anything. And it was, I can explain that whole thing to you, but you don't need to know it. It's just a boring story. But, you know, a lot of people made a lot of money doing that. Very few of them got, you know, in trouble for it. You know, a lot of them killed themselves over it. But it was just a mess, you know, with the money market and what was going on with it. So anyway, decrease normally at predetermined times. The interest rate is a percentage over a selected index. So the first thing they're going to have is an index. They're going to make a loan, and say at first the loan is going to be, say, 2.5% interest only for the first year. That's going to be your payment. For the first 6 months, the interest is going to be interest only. I'm going a little beyond what you need to know right now. 2.5% for the first 6 months. At the end of 6 months, they're going to go 2 points over an index. Now, it could be LIBOR, could be 11th District Cost of Funds Index, but they just take that index, and if that index 0.5% and it goes 2 points over, they're still at 2.5%. Okay? And so then that'll go for the rest of the year. And usually for the rest of the year, you have a little bit of a negative. I want you to consider this. Average prices of homes in the Los Angeles area move up 7% a year. You're looking at a home, or you have a client that's looking at a home for $500,000. How much is that home going to go up in a year? Over, you know, a 100-year period, it's going to go up $35,000 a year. Maybe not this year. This year it might go up $50,000, and next year it might go up $20,000, but it's going to be an average of $35,000. So the person can buy it if they use this adjustable rate mortgage. Now they're worried about the accumulated negative. They say, yeah, but there's going to be a 2% accumulation. That wouldn't be on the example I just gave you, but let's suppose it was. And a $500,000 loan, okay, that's going to be what? 2%. 2 times 5 is 10. So it's going to be $10, $100, $1,000, $5,000, $50,000, $500,000. What's it going to be? You know, about $5,000. Okay, that's what you do. Just take 2 times the number, 10. So not $10, no. $50, need a little more. $500, probably for a year, you need more. That would be for a month. So it's probably $5,000. So now the house goes up in value $35,000. Their loan goes up $5,000. Is it still a good deal for them? Yes. Because now they own the home, and if their loan only went up $5,000, because it'll catch up, and then they're going to be able to level that loan off, and they'll start paying it down. The house is going up so bloody fast. The same thing if somebody's trying to save. They say to Starlands, I've shown people houses, and they say, well, Starland, you know, we want to get our payment down a little bit. Strongly encourage them not to, because here's what's going to happen. They say, well, we thought, you know, we'd like to have our payment be like $100 a month less. That means they have to come up with $20,000 on that loan. It's about $5 $1,000. So they have to come up with save $20,000. By the time they save $20,000, if they can save $20,000 in a year, the house went up $35,000 that year. They're $15,000 behind the curve. So you need to bite the bullet. So go to an adjustable rate, and that'll tamper out, you know, or lower, you know, the payment on the loan, and then they can, you know, do a conversion later and go to a fixed rate if that's what they want. It's just that we're used to fixed rate loans, and often the adjustable rate loan is a much better loan. You need to learn how to look at them, you need to get the confidence of your buyers, and you need to be able to explain them to those buyers. Simple? It is, that's your job. Your job is to be the very best you can be. You got, if you're gonna be a realtor, you need to be the best damn realtor in this whole area. Not in this room, you know, not in your block, everywhere. You gotta know every angle, you gotta know how to explain it. And most realtors never get that far. They just go, oh yeah, I don't like to adjust for a mortgage myself. Everybody practice that. Oh yeah, well, I don't like to adjust for a mortgage myself. Or you could be the one who says, you know what, they're actually a gift from God. You know that's going to get your head, let me explain. And then you explain it to them, and your enthusiasm, they're not going to understand what you're saying. Look at the trouble you're having to understand what I'm saying right now. So they're not going to understand what you're saying, but your enthusiasm will carry them through the day, and ultimately they're going to end up owning that house. That house, if it goes up $35,000 a year, in 10 years, it's going to be worth $850,000. If they don't buy it today, the house is still going to be worth $850,000, except they're going to be renting somewhere. And their rent will have gone up 7% a year too. So if they're paying $2,000 a month down, they'll say, well, you know, we can't really afford $2,500. Yeah, after taxes you can. And if you don't buy right now, you probably won't ever be able to buy. I don't want to hurt your feelings, but you may be missing the opportunity for you to ever own a home in the Los Angeles area. Can I explain? You got to learn those dialogues. They just slip right off the end of your tongue. Well, if their rent is like $2,000 a month right now, that means every year, on the average, it's going to go up $140. So in 10 years, their rent is going to be at $3,400. Rent's like that all over LA right now. Almost everywhere you go. I've got stuff I can't believe. I've got one building I lived in when I was a kid. It was, I got married and I lived there. I paid $100 a month for this apartment. You know how much I get for that apartment now? I bought it from the lady. She always told me to buy that building. I bought it later. $1,800 a month. You know, well, if you ever told me, you know, when I was like 25 or something, and if you'd have said, someday, Rob, when you buy this building, you know, you have the great Peru, you'll be getting $1,800, and I couldn't even count that high.
Can you explain something to me? How do landlords come up with the pricing for these apartments?
They don't. The market does. The market does. It's just like cars. How do car dealers come up with the price? Whatever the market will bear. You have to do your imitation of beer. Whatever the market will bear.
I'm originally from Missouri. If I was to move out there to get a 2-bedroom apartment, I would be paying like $600 or $700 a month. Out here,